Coming up, the nightmare scenario that would put us in the dark for years. One Homeland Security expert says it could happen here in America, courtesy of an EMP. And then, a teen who wanted a name.
They had the cars, they had the money.
And wound up getting a rap.
The next thing I know, I'm being read my rights.
On today's 700 Club.
Well, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. Well, Donald Trump got a bounce. Hillary Clinton has a bounce. Everybody has its bounces after their conventions. But it's still a long way into the election. But it's counting down the 100 days, and then it's getting to be 90, and then it'll be 85, and then 80, and then on it'll go. The election is almost upon us, but anything can happen. Wendy.
That's right. Well, Donald Trump is still dealing with his controversy over the parents of a fallen Muslim American soldier, while Clinton is trying to take on Trump over the economy. And Charlene Aaron has the story.
A big convention bounce for Hillary Clinton. A new CNN poll has her leading GOP rival Donald Trump 52 to 43% in a two-way matchup. The Republican nominee is still under fire for his response to the Muslim parents of a decorated U.S. soldier killed in Iraq after the father spoke out against Trump at the Democratic convention. Trump's remarks has sparked outrage from veterans and members of his own party. GOP Senator and war hero John McCain blasting Trump's comments. While our party has bestowed upon him the nomination, it is not accompanied by unfettered license to defame those who are the best among us. Trump's campaign is now appealing to GOP colleagues on Capitol Hill to help quell the controversy. Meanwhile, a mother whose son was killed in Benghazi is also speaking out. Patricia Smith spoke against Clinton at the Republican convention, and she told CNN she's gotten much different treatment than the Khan family.
I was treated like dirt. I don't think that the Khan family was treated that way, but I was treated like dirt. I was called a liar. She went on TV many times and nodding her head, thinking that she is so wonderful and she knows everything and I know nothing, and I was just imagining this. I don't imagine my son getting killed. I don't imagine that at all.
On the campaign trail, Clinton attacking Trump's tax cut plan and again calling on him to release his tax returns.
And while we're at it, we would like to see those tax returns, wouldn't we? My husband and I have put out, I think, about 33 or 34 years worth, if you're interested.
And Trump alleges that former Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders made a deal with the devil to endorse his former rival Hillary Clinton.
If he would have just not done anything, just go home, go to sleep, relax, he would have been a hero. But he made a deal with the devil. She's the devil. He made a deal with the devil.
There's still a long way to go till Election Day, and many of today's controversies could easily be forgotten by November. Clinton's poll bounce could fade, as bounces often do, turning this into a tight race once again. And this could still be anything but a normal election year, with millions of people still frustrated by the status quo and the economy, and many still wanting change. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, the Lord has handed Mr. Trump a gift of 1.2% GDP growth, which is absolutely pathetic and horrible. 1.2%, which is historically low. I don't think coming out of any recession have we ever had figures this low. And if Trump would just stick to message, that's what they keep telling us, stay on message. Don't talk about Muslim heroes or fallen warriors or any of that stuff. Stay off that and talk about the economy. And remember that thing when Clinton was running against George Bush, and I think it was Stephanopoulos, one of those guys, or I forget which one of his age, but anyhow, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. It is the economy. 1.2% GDP growth is pathetic. Why don't they talk about that? Whew.
I heard Rudy Giuliani say this morning that he has really one person to attack, and that's Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
And Rudy said, let us attack everyone else.
Yeah.
But he seems to be baited by these tweets
well, it's
and all
rabbit
these
trails,
things.
and with Christians, the devil will get you off on rabbit trails every chance you get. If you are susceptible to them, and if you will respond, then there'll be an incitement constantly in your life, and you have to block all that stuff out and concentrate on the one thing that's important in an election right now: stay on message. It is the economy. Well, in other news, the terrorists of ISIS are making it clear to the Western world why they hate us, despite what the Pope said. And, I think this Pontiff is a super guy, but I think in this one he is absolutely wrong. John Jessup has that story.
Thanks, Pat. The latest issue of ISIS Online magazine is titled Break the Cross, and it includes an article called Why We Hate You and Why We Fight You. The writer highlights several points, including this: we hate you first and foremost because you are disbelievers. You reject the oneness of Allah, whether you realize it or not. By making partners for him in worship, you blaspheme against him, claiming that he has a son. At the end, he says, the fact is, even if you were to stop bombing us, imprisoning us, torturing us, vilifying us, and usurping our lands, we would continue to hate you because our primary reason for hating you will not cease to exist until you embrace Islam. You can read more about how ISIS says Christians and Jews have twisted the divine revelation of Islam on Dale Hurd's blog at cbnnews.com. It's called Hurd on the Web. Pat?
I appreciate that. Bin Laden was not some poor mullah out in the streets of Saudi Arabia. He was the heir of a huge multi-million-dollar fortune. His family was one of the biggest builders and developers in that whole region. He wasn't some poverty-stricken person. And Muhammad Atta and others who flew those planes on 9/11, they weren't poverty-stricken. These were university-trained. He was, I believe, an architect. And others have got tremendous training. They are not from the poor classes at all. But let's get our facts straight. And you're not defaming, quote, a great religion when you say that this religion or political system incites violence. It does.
Yes, it does.
John, what's next?
Pat, turning overseas, in Syria, government forces backed by Russia and the United States are making major gains against the rebels near the city of Aleppo. But their success comes with a warning from the director of the FBI. As jihadi groups are defeated, more terrorists will flee to Europe. Gary Lane brings us that story.
Syrian government troops celebrate in Aleppo, shouting, "My soul, my blood, I give myself for Syria." They just recaptured a major section of Syria's second largest city, one that has been occupied by ISIS and other anti-government rebels. The Syrian state news agency says dozens of jihadists have laid down their weapons in the northern section of the city, known as Bani Zaid. 300,000 residents were believed to be trapped and isolated in the eastern part of Aleppo. The government's victory caused President Assad to announce the opening of a humanitarian corridor, so food, water, and other relief can get in and people get out. In Damascus, I recently asked the Apostolic Nuncio to Syria if humanitarian aid is getting into people in need throughout the country.
With some difficulties in some areas, but smoothly, and we do hope that with ceasefire and delivery of humanitarian aid, the situation will little bit improve. It's a long way, but I think it's a good start.
How are the Christians doing in Aleppo?
The Christians in Aleppo are living under a difficult situation like everybody, and we do hope the situation will not get worse.
So more than 5 years now into this war, the people here in Damascus and elsewhere in Syria are growing tired. They want peace. But so far, the talks in Geneva are a bit shaky, and the ceasefire is barely holding. And life has gotten worse for many people in many areas of the country. This is the aftermath of a major bomb blast in northern Syria near the Turkish border. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack in Qamishli, the capital city of Syria, Kurdistan. At least 50 people were killed and dozens more injured. However, the Syrian government is making major gains on the battlefield. If it regains control of all of Aleppo, it would be a major blow to ISIS and other anti-government groups. It would be considered Assad's most significant victory of the civil war. But FBI Director James Comey warns, as the Islamic State is crushed in Syria and Iraq, hundreds of terrorists will flow out of the region and into Western Europe. The diaspora will be 10 times worse than the one out of Afghanistan during the 1980s. In the meantime, the United Nations hopes to convene a new round of Syrian peace talks in August. Gary Lane, CBN News.
And Pat, of course, the concern is they could come to the United States from Europe.
Well, they certainly will. Well, I know the Prime Minister of Germany is under terrific fire from her people because of the policy of open borders. Those terrorists don't just stay quiet when they emigrate to some other country. They take with them all of the tools of revolution and mayhem. The legacy, ladies and gentlemen, of militant Islam. Well, we've got something else that will really shock you, so get your seatbelt on. Wendy, what's next?
That's true. Up next, the potential for a catastrophic nightmare. How an electromagnetic pulse bomb could destroy the power grid and cast civilization into a new dark age. You don't want to miss this.
The government of the United States is spending billions, and I say that advisedly, billions, tens of billions of dollars on global warming. Global warming may cause some flooding in our coastal areas, maybe 20, 30, 40 years in the future, but there's something that's looming right around the corner. It's a nightmare scenario for America and a serious threat. If it happens, it could result in millions of deaths. And yet our government, that's willing to spend billions on global warming, is doing virtually nothing to prevent this potential catastrophe. What is it called? It is an EMP attack. Dale Hurd explains.
Imagine one day your electricity suddenly goes out, gadgets stop working, and cars come to a standstill on the roads. And what if the power grid remained dark for months or even years, resulting in millions of deaths across America? That's a nightmare scenario many experts worry could become a reality if an electromagnetic pulse bomb, or EMP, detonated 100 miles or so above the Earth, right over North America. Who could attack us that way? In February, North Korea announced it launched a weather satellite, a move the United States and other nations quickly condemned as an attempt to further develop long-range missile capability. Rogue nations and terrorists aren't the only concern. EMPs happen naturally too. A powerful geomagnetic storm from the sun could also cause a worldwide catastrophe. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry is Executive Director of the EMP Task Force on National and Homeland Security. In his book, Blackout Wars, Pry says we must act quickly to defend America against what is perhaps the greatest threat that has ever challenged civilization, and one that could usher in a new dark age.
Well, the head of the task force on this EMP problem, Dr. Peter Pry, is with us right now. And Dr. Pry, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for being here. Could you tell us exactly what this all is? EMP, that's electromagnetic pulse. What generates it?
You know, basically, it can be generated by a nuclear weapon detonated high above the atmosphere, as was explained in the clip. And it's like a super energetic radio wave. You can think of it as a radio wave, but it's a radio wave that's got so much energy in it that it can destroy electronics across an entire continent.
Well, now, how many kilotons of juice would a bomb have to have in order to generate such a wave?
Even a low-yield nuclear weapon.
Really?
The Congressional EMP Commission could not come up with a small enough bomb that wouldn't generate. All nuclear weapons will generate EMP, even a primitive first-generation bomb, such as terrorists might be able to build. Now, the bigger the bomb, the more powerful the EMP. However, the problem is that our electric grid and other civilian critical infrastructures have never been hardened against EMP. And so even relatively low levels of EMP that could be generated by...
Let's get... where does the bomb come from? Can it come over the pole from North Korea?
Exactly, and North Korea actually has 2 satellites orbiting over the United States as we speak that are in the optimum position to evade our ballistic missile early warning radars and missile defenses by coming from that south polar trajectory. And it's at the optimum altitude to place an EMP field over all 48 contiguous United States.
What altitude do they need?
About 300 kilometers would cover the whole 48 United States.
That's all they need, 300 kilometers?
Right, but even at an altitude of 30 kilometers, you know, and if you used a weather balloon, you don't need a sophisticated ballistic missile. If you had a weather balloon and lofted a warhead to 30 kilometers anywhere over the eastern United States, that would basically end us as a civilization, because that would take down the eastern grid. 75% of the electricity in the United States is generated by the eastern grid. We can't survive as a civilization without it.
Weather satellites coming overhead, all of a sudden somebody in North Korea pushes a button and boom, there's an explosion. And that radiates enough magnetic power to shut down all these devices across the entire United States?
Yes, that's right.
Is that right?
And you know, it would collapse the 3 big grids that we've got, the eastern grid, the western grid, and the Texas grid. And we think the North Koreans have got the most sophisticated kind of weapon called a super EMP
How does that collapse the grid? Why does it collapse it?
Because it generates, well, take the case of a super EMP weapon.
Okay.
You know, the way you measure the power, it's the volts per meter, okay?
All right.
And a super EMP weapon could generate 200,000 volts per meter. So that means for every meter of length of of the target, you know, you multiply that by 200,000, and that's the amount of energy being injected to it in the speed of light, okay? So imagine just how many meters. 1 meter is like a yard, okay? Think of how many meters there are and all the power lines and telecommunications lines that are strung out over the United States. There are thousands of kilometers, so there's millions and millions of meters, and you multiply that by 200,000, and that's the amount of energy that's inserted into it in the speed of light. It's a huge amount of energy, and it's obviously far...
Is that going to blow the transformers? I mean, that will cripple them. Will it permanently put them out of commission? Or just,
yes.
It's long term. It's not. It's something temporary.
The blackout we're talking about is not a temporary blackout. We're talking about years. In fact, if the blackout lasted a year, there'd be no coming back from it. You know, because the Congressional EMP Commission, which I served, estimated that if we had a blackout that lasted 1 year, up to 9 of 10 Americans, 90% of the population would perish from starvation, disease, and societal collapse. And the North Koreans know this, the Iranians know this, the Russians and Chinese know this. That's why they all plan for a nuclear EMP attack.
That's one of the most frightening scenarios. And what are we doing? We're talking about climate change, something that may happen 1,000 years or 500 years or 50 years down the road.
Ironically, some of the solutions that the administration is pursuing for combating climate change, like shutting down coal-fired plants, actually makes us more vulnerable to a nuclear EMP attack, because coal-fired plants, because you've got lots of coal stored there, tend to be actually more robust and less susceptible to this effect. So it makes us more vulnerable as we shut down coal-fired plants and fossil type burning plants. Yes.
The money that in our society, it travels, you know, it's out of SWIFT and these other huge computers, but we have an electronic system. Very few of us any longer use cash, and some use checks, but most of it is a computer printout. It's digits back and forth. Will that shut all that infrastructure down if an EMP blast takes place?
Yes, some members of the commission have compared this to putting the country into a giant time machine and sending us back to a pre-electronic age, so that you would basically, you know, have a barter economy. You know, you wouldn't have the electronic economy we have now. We're an electronic civilization. Everything depends directly or indirectly on electricity, including food and water. You know, as soon as the grid goes down, you know, the ability to get pure running water into the cities, for example, goes away. You know, we've only got a 3-day food supply in the local grocery stores at normal rates of consumption For the entire country, there's only a 30-day food supply to feed 320 million people.
But in the entire United States of America, only 30 days of food supply.
At normal rates of consumption, it'll begin to spoil 3 days after the grid goes down.
It used to be in a farm economy, people canned their own fruits and vegetables and stuff, and they had cold cellars where they put their produce, so they could. But they can't do that any longer.
No, less than 2% of the population feeds the other 98% of the population now. And that's only possible because of the high-tech society that we have, because we have things like tractors and manufacturing facilities for canning goods on a massive basis. Okay. When all that stops, your ability to feed the population goes away.
All those machines are controlled by an electronic device primarily. All the robots and all the manufacturing machinery would stop?
Yeah, they're called there's a particular kind of device called a SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Systems. These are little computers that replace human beings in control systems, not just in the electric grid, but in all the critical infrastructures, including in like food industries where you do canning and other kinds of manufacturing. And these things are very vulnerable to EMP effects. So all of that stuff would get shut down. And we've been talking about the nuclear EMP threat, for example, from North Korea. But there's also a threat from Mother Nature that should be mentioned.
A solar flare?
Yeah, exactly. A geomagnetic superstorm such as happened in 1859, the 1859 Carrington event. We're overdue. Those occur about once a century or so, and we're overdue for one.
Well, didn't one come close to Earth not too long ago?
That's right. In July of 2012, July 25th of 2012, a coronal mass ejection that was a Carrington-class coronal mass ejection that could have created a great geomagnetic superstorm that would affect the entire Earth, not just the United States, missed us by about 3 days. And NASA estimates that the likelihood of the recurrence of a geomagnetic superstorm like Carrington is 12% per decade, which virtually guarantees that in our lifetimes are going to
coronal mass ejection from the sun all the time.
They do happen all the time. We're basically in a game of Russian roulette with the sun. And we didn't know that until 2012 when we started putting up specialized satellites that could photograph these coronal mass ejections. Nobody knew if it was a very rare phenomena, but we now know that this kind of coronal mass ejection happens all the time, and it's just a question of time before we get hit by one.
You scare me to death, and I'm sure other people, because these North Koreans and those who hate us realize that we're terrifically vulnerable. What have we done to ward off these dangers?
Well, one of the things I do give credit to the administration for at least doing this. They are continuing to harden our military critical infrastructures. For example, the Obama administration spending almost $1 billion to harden NORAD's assets, including Cheyenne Mountain, which is the underground bunker. And in fact, many of our military commands are moving back into Cheyenne Mountain because it was hardened against EMP during the Cold War, but they're further hardening it to anticipate the possibility of a North Korean super EMP attack. But what does that do for the civilian population? I mean, it's all well and good for your military to be there, but the whole point of having a military is to provide for the defense of our civilian population. And that doesn't do anything to protect the people.
We can bluster. We have a candidate who does a lot of bluster, but all that rhetoric is not going to stop these guys from doing this. I mean, you can have all the rhetoric in the world, but if somebody launches one satellite, you're saying one satellite with one bomb could cripple the entire United States. That means cars don't run, the cars can't start?
That's right. It would mean airplanes would come crashing out of the sky. There's about 500,000 people in the air on over 1,000 airliners at any given moment. Many of those would end up crashing. You'd have massive firestorms in cities from natural gas pipelines exploding, and forest fires. The nuclear reactors is a huge problem. We've got over 100 nuclear reactors in this country, most of them co-located with the population centers. And many or all of them would go Fukushima in 7 days. That is to say that when the electric grid goes down, the
cooling of the rods.
The cooling of the rods and the cooling of the reactor core would stop. And you'd end up with these radioactive steam explosions that would spread radioactive contamination over half the United States in the inhabited areas. But the worst thing is just the lack of food and water. I mean, it's a high-tech way of killing 90% of the population the old-fashioned way, through starvation and disease and societal collapse.
Well, who in the government, you're a quasi-governmental agency, who in the government is taking this seriously? This is so much more imminent than global warming.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've got the Department of Homeland Security is supposed to take it seriously. And they have launched a study about protecting the grid. But we've been doing studies for years, and we know how to protect the grid, and it doesn't even cost that much. The EMP Commission 8 years ago came up with a good plan for protecting the grid, and so we know how to do it. And it's the politics of EMP, though. The electric power industry doesn't want to do anything.
Why?
They have deep pockets. Well, why did the Zeppelin industry not want to have helium in its balloons and decided and convinced itself that it was perfectly safe through their operational procedures to fly balloons with hydrogen gas, you know, which ended up resulting in the Hindenburg and put the Zeppelin industry completely out of business. You know, that's because the merchant class, all right, has a very short horizon. They are concerned about what's in the till next week, maybe a year from now. They're concerned, they don't want to spend the money, and they definitely don't want the government regulation. That's the main thing. You know, they are not, this idea of the grid posing an existential threat to our society is a new concept. And
how much money would it cost to harden our nation against this type of a threat?
Well, to protect the electric grid, you know, the EMP Commission estimated it would cost about $2 billion. That's what we
Come on, $2 billion?
You know, that's what we give away in foreign aid to Pakistan
every year. Well, that's a rounding error in this budget.
Now, if you wanted to protect all of the critical infrastructures, okay, it would probably cost 10 or 20 billion. Yeah, and you
10 or 20 billion? Yeah. It's nothing. I mean, we're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar economy?
Yes, that's right. You know, compared to the consequences of when it comes to an existential threat like this. And so it isn't the money. You know, it's primarily, you know, the opposition that comes from the private sector has to do with the government regulation. You know, someone from the Department of Defense going in to inspect the electric grid to make sure that these guys
take banks. I mean, you've got these huge banks that are, as I say, the SWIFT system handles trillions of dollars every single day in currency transactions and other credit transactions. And what would it take to harden the banking system so it would function?
Well, you know, that again, that would be that's one of the critical infrastructures.
Of course.
You know, and if we had spent 10 or 20 billion to protect all the critical infrastructures, not just the banking system, but it would probably cover that. There are protecting things is not that hard. For example, you know, the storage systems that the banks use. If you put it in a Faraday cage, that's just a steel box, basically. You know, you can make a Faraday cage at home using a metal garbage can with a tight-fitting lid and a plastic bag, and make your own makeshift Faraday cage. So some of the technologies can be, you know, quite simple. You know, if you were to put your data processing systems inside of a Faraday cage, they would be protected. Put surge arresters on them, they would be protected. So there's multiple different ways.
I'm thinking of hospitals. I'm thinking of all kinds of emergency responders. I'm thinking of, I mean, the devastation would be beyond belief if we don't fix it. But it's peanuts. As I say, it's a rounding error on the budget we've got. It's nothing.
I'm with you. You know, I've been an intelligence and national security professional all my life. Yeah. And you know, I've looked at all the weapons of mass destruction, you know, nuclear blasts on a city, chemical, biological threats, the cyber threats that people are concerned about with computer viruses. And the EMP is the one that has always worried me the most. And it's basically why I've dedicated what's left of my life, and many of my other colleagues, like Jim Woolsey, who was the former director of the CIA, you know, often has joined me in this to try to get the nation protected against this greatest threat our civilization really faces.
It's so cheap. I mean, it's one thing if you said, well, it's going to cost us $10 trillion, and people said, we can't afford that. But a few billion? A few billion?
Yes, right. You know, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable.
Tom Clancy had, you know, The Sum of All Fears, a book he wrote, and he had a freighter outside the Baltimore harbor that had a similar thing. They launched you can launch a short missile from the Baltimore Harbor, for example, and you don't need to come over the globe, over the pole, do you?
No, in fact, Iran has actually practiced launching a short-range missile off of a ship.
Yes.
And North Korea, during the worst ever nuclear crisis up to that point that we had in July 2013, they had a freighter go through the Gulf of Mexico. And we didn't even know until it tried to sneak through the Panama Canal that hidden in the hold, it had 2 SA-2 missiles. Now, those are nuclear-capable missiles. They didn't have warheads on them, but they're designed to take a 10-kiloton warhead. And, you know, it looked like North Korea was practicing not just being able to attack us over the pole, but whether they could sneak a freighter into the Gulf of Mexico and launch one off the Gulf of Mexico to take down, let's say, the Eastern Grid, take down the Texas Grid. And this is the idea. The reason for doing it by a freighter is that it would be you'd be able to keep your fingerprints completely off of it.
Yeah,
you know, because the warhead detonates in space, so there's no debris to collect, so that you can do forensic analysis to figure out where did that warhead come from. And you know, there's thousands of freighters in our waters all the time. You know, that could come from anyone. That way you avoid. The satellite thing could also avoid detection, actually, because there's many satellites in low Earth orbit. And once the weapon goes off, you know, it basically fries radars and intelligence collection devices that we rely upon to determine, well, who attacked us? You know, once that technology is destroyed, it would be very hard to figure out, well, which particular satellite was the one that did it.
Do you have the ear of either of the 2 candidates running for president? Is there any possibility that either Trump will listen or Hillary will listen to what you're saying?
Well, I did brief Mr. Trump last year in Iowa, you know, for about 20 minutes, and he hadn't heard about this threat, and he seemed to get it. But I'm encouraged that many of the advisors, for example, Newt Gingrich, has been a national leader on this. Mr. Gingrich knows about EMP, cares about it deeply. Ben Carson, you know, I gave him my book, and he really learned and studied and has become kind of an expert on it. I know he has, you know, Mr. Trump's heir, Chris Christie, knows about it. So a number of the candidates who are now in his campaign, you know, are aware of it.
You know, the thing that astounds me, it is so easy. I mean, the spending is so minuscule in relation to the rest of the money we're throwing out of the federal government. You know, it's just appalling.
To not do it is criminally negligent, in my view.
Your book is called Blackout Wars. Can you get it on Amazon? Where do you get this?
Yeah, Amazon.com. It can be ordered from Amazon.com.
All right, his name is Pry, P-R-Y, and it's Blackout Wars. You ought to do this, ladies and gentlemen. It is really, this is an existential threat that all of us face, and within a few weeks, we could all be starving to death unless we have alternative food. You don't have fuel, you don't have a vehicle, you don't have money, you don't have all those things.
I would like to add also, though, you know, we don't have to wait for Washington to act. Part of the reason that we are so frustrated, you know, Washington is just so broken that there are many things they should be doing that they haven't done. Individual states can protect themselves. On the front cover of that of the book, some of the states are in white. That's because some states, like Maine and Virginia and Florida, have actually passed legislative initiatives. They're not waiting for Washington. They're going to go ahead and protect the electric grid within their states. So you can protect an individual state, you can protect a community. You don't have to wait for Washington, and I would recommend that people not wait for Washington.
Amen.
The state should take the lead, and communities should take the lead. Well, and people should protect themselves.
I'm glad to see my state. I live in Virginia. I hope it's protected somewhat.
They're moving forward. Dominion Power looks to me like they're doing a pretty good job.
They're good people. I've known the head of Dominion Power. He's retired now, but they're good folks. Doctor, this is a sobering interview, and I appreciate you being with us.
Well, I thank you so much for having me, sir.
Keep sounding the alarm like Paul Revere. The British are coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. God bless you. You can also go to cbnnews.com for a link to the EMP Task Force website. Dr. Pry, it's a pleasure he's with us again. His book is called Blackout War, available on Amazon. Whew. Wendy, are you frightened enough, honey?
Well, that was something else. Fascinating, amazing interview. Thanks very much to both of you. Well, coming up, a teenager steals a jacket at gunpoint.
In my mind at that time, it was just funny. I didn't even take it that serious.
The next thing I know, I'm being read my rights. It was just shocking.
An even bigger shocker is yet to come after this.
To listen to our top songs of the week, go to CBN Radio at cbn.com.
Well, you're watching the 700 Club News you might not get someplace else, but we get it here for you because we want to tell it to you pure and unvarnished. Life can turn on a dime. That's what 19-year-old J.L. Simpson discovered after he robbed a guy of his jacket at gunpoint. J.L. thought it was funny until 2 days later when he was arrested for armed robbery, and suddenly it was no laughing matter.
I seen some go to jail. I seen some be murdered. But you know, thinking as a teenager, not me. You know, that won't happen to me. But everybody says that.
J.L. Simpson had always thought of himself as a good kid. He loved his family and wanted to be just like his dad.
We walked alike. We had the same mannerisms. We conducted ourselves the same. He taught me everything I know about football and about chores around the house.
But when J.L. was 15, his parents divorced.
I was a little angry when they divorced because I was used to him being in the home with me. Definitely some disappointment and some hurt and just not understanding.
He was especially angry at his dad.
I put my energy and lot into sports, so that helped cover some of it. You know, that helped hide some of the hurt or hide some of the pain.
Still, he felt the void left by his father, especially on game day.
Mainly missed him when it's Saturday, it's time for a game, and he's not at the game. Or we're not riding to the game together. But I didn't realize how much of a toll it was taking on me at the time.
J.L. started to rebel in small ways at first, coming in late, disobeying his mom. She hoped that church would give him the guidance he needed.
There was a Sandra household rule: you were going to church. I didn't like it. I never had a relationship with God for myself.
J.L. didn't just lose his role model, he lost his identity. He thought he found it by playing football.
I never was on the bench. I played every game. I was a starter, so that meant a lot to me. That kind of helped me because you're talking about somebody with identity issues, self-esteem issues that nobody really knows about. Through sports, I began to get an identity.
By now, J.L.'s influences were his peers, and he started drinking and smoking pot. After high school, he saw them as his role models.
I'm now admiring these same guys that I admired on the football field. Now they're selling drugs, and there's a part of me that wants to do what they're doing. You know, because they had the cars, they had the clothes, they had the money.
But at 19, J.L. knew he didn't have the guts or reputation to make it on the streets. He still wanted a name for himself, so he crossed a line. He and a friend were getting high before a party when they saw some guys walk by. One was wearing a cool jacket, and they wanted it.
My friend said, "Hey, you should get that jacket," and we approached the guys.
Nice jacket.
Thanks, man. And kind of like asked them, "Hey, we want your jacket. Take the jacket off." Yeah, he refused to take the jacket off. And then my friend pulls out a gun, and he says, "Well, now take the jacket off." And he takes the jacket off, and bam, we're off and on our way to the party with the jacket.
Later at the party, they stole equipment from the DJ, also at gunpoint. J.L. didn't understand the gravity of what they'd done.
In my mind at that time, it was just funny. I didn't even take it that serious.
Within 2 days, J.L. and his friend were arrested.
The next thing I know, I'm being read my rights. It was just shocking. It was one of the worst times of my life. But something happened on February 26th. 1992, that began a transition and a change in my life forever.
While in jail awaiting trial, J.L. was invited to a Bible study.
I didn't know many Bible stories, but I heard about Paul and Silas, you know, being in prison, being in jail, and they praised God and the doors swung open. So I'm thinking, hey, you know what? I'm going to Bible study. They asked anybody who wanted to receive Jesus Christ as Lord, and I received Jesus.
Finally, the things he'd heard in church started making sense.
This relationship with Christ, this loving God who died for me, who loves me.
JL was later convicted on 2 counts of armed robbery and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Though he was terrified, his growing faith gave him hope and his real identity.
I could never fulfill who I was because I could never define who I was. But it wasn't until I came into a relationship and a working knowledge with Christ that I understood that I'm complete in Him. And so that helped me tremendously with my relationships, and it also helped me cope and deal with being incarcerated.
JL had to serve only 3 of the 12 years. When he got out, he pursued his new calling as a pastor.
But I'm so thankful to God.
JL later married Shannon, and today they have a big family of 7. He guides his kids to look to the Lord for their identity. His message, especially to youth, is clear.
God is able, He's so gracious, He's so merciful, so kind that even though I made those mistakes, now He can use those mistakes. He can use that story. He can use those things I've been through to be a blessing and help somebody else so they won't have to go through those things.
God is the God of the second chance. JL made a mistake as a youngster. I think that he got off really light, frankly, from what he had done. I mean, armed robbery is a big deal, and the fact that they let him off after 3 years is extraordinary. But he got his life together because he found the Lord. God is waiting for you to say yes. He's waiting for you, and so many wonderful things are there for you. There's so many dangers ahead in this world, so many pitfalls, so many troubles, but God wants you. And He will help you, and He will bless you. And what He says is, you'll turn your life over to me, I'll take care of you. And if you want to know the Lord, I just ask you to call in. One of our counselors on the phone, they'll be glad to tell you about how you can find the Lord. Just call and say, listen, I want to meet Jesus. And one of these folks will tell you. And I'll also have some literature we'll give you if you want it. So just call 1-800-759-0700. Wendy, what's next?
Still ahead, Pat returns to the hot seat for Bring It On. Veronica says, I watched CBN from South Africa a day later due to the time difference with the U.S. When words about healing take place, can I still claim the healing? Stay tuned for Pat's answer and much more coming up later.
And welcome back to the 700 Club. The family of Bill McCartney says the former Colorado football coach and founder of the Promise Keepers men's ministry has been diagnosed with late-onset dementia and Alzheimer's. Family members said in a statement the 75-year-old McCartney is still biking, golfing, supporting his old football team, and being an active member of his church. McCartney founded Promise Keepers in 1990. Its rallies at stadiums and arenas urge Christian men to be faithful to their wives and active in their churches. A parish church in England says its efforts to welcome Muslim refugees has transformed its own community. Reverend Sally Smith told CBN News 3 to 4 Muslim immigrants accept Christ each week at St. Mark's Church. Some refugees say local mosques turn them away. Smith's congregation provides them with needed food, clothes, shelter, medical care, and even language lessons. St. Mark's recently baptized 15 refugees. You can see that interview and always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Wendy are back with more of the 700 Club. It's coming up right after this.
Welcome back. Gu Yu is a young boy from China who had trouble hearing, and he was often bullied because of it. Thankfully, all that changed after a visit from CBN.
Gu Yu always shared his snacks with his classmates, but when he wanted to play, they ran away.
I saw it with my own eyes. They threw stones at my little cousin and called him ugly and dumb. I just want to cry because I love him. He's a good boy.
Gu Yu was bullied because he was deaf and couldn't speak. His mother abandoned him and his father worked out of town. So Grandma Wong, a Christian, took care of him.
If he wanted to eat rice, he drew a bow and darts. When he fell down, he cried and pointed to his feet. He followed me everywhere because he didn't want to be alone. It was really sad.
The report from the doctor only made them feel worse.
Guiyu was too old to get his ear fixed, and they were like dead branches. When he recommended hearing aids, I cried because I couldn't afford them.
Guiyu started leaving class when he couldn't understand his teacher, and some boys were so mean they urinated on him.
It broke my heart. He just pointed to his wet clothes. Everything was so hard that I felt like God was nowhere to be found. Plus, I worried that Guiyu would be alone in the future and not be able to protect himself.
Just when Grandma Wong had almost given up on God, a friend told her about CBN. We gave Guiyu hearing aids and provided speech therapy.
His personality is so different now, and his classmates don't bully him. I love spending time with Guiyu. I never saw him laugh before.
He's not afraid anymore. He says, "Grandma, you go ahead. I'm fine on my own." I think this was all God's arrangement. He sent you to help us. May He bless you and His peace be with you always.
God cares about people, and He cared about little Guiyu so much that He sent you. He sent CBN to help him get those hearing aids, and he's now a happy, normal child. If you'd like to be a part of helping people like that little boy all over the world, it's so easy. Just go to your phones right now, the number on your screen, or you can log on to cbn.com and just say, yes, I'd like to join the 700 Club. When you do that, we're going to send you Pat's new teaching called Victory Through Life's Storms. This is one of our most dynamic teachings. This will increase your faith so much. We want you to have this. This is our gift when you call right now. Somebody named Georgia from Big Stone Gaps has already seen it. She said, Victory Through Life Storms was an on-time word from God. I have been in one of the storms, and some of my friends have been also. This DVD was so uplifting, just what we needed. God bless you. Well, thanks, Georgia, for letting us know that it blessed you.
Yeah.
A lot of people loving it.
They love it. I'm so glad. All right.
Well, all right, we are ready to bring it on. Pat is ready. Okay, Veronica writes, I love watching CBN. I watch it every day from South Africa. We watch the program a day later due to the time difference. My question is, when you pray and words about healing take place, can we still claim the healing a day later? Are those messages only for people watching in America or all over the world?
Well, they're from all over the world. You see, God dwells in eternity, and the end is from the beginning. He sees a continuum of everything that's already there, and He's not waiting for this to happen and that to happen. So if you're living in South Africa and God gives us a word here in the United States, it can be for you. It can be a delay on a tape. It can be all kinds of things, because God knows exactly what your needs are. So, yes, it's for you. You claim it, whatever it is, and if that fits you, then that's yours, and it came from a loving God.
Amen. And we get reports all the time from people who do that and get their healing. So it definitely works.
I have had people talk to a tape, Wendy. They talked to a tape. I was taping, and we had a dialogue back and forth on the tape. I'd already recorded it like a week or two earlier, and this person was watching and talking to the tape, and I was answering precisely. You know, it was, that's what God does. All right.
He sure does. Bruce writes in, Pat, do you know for certain that there is a Lord who would intervene in an everyday person's life if that person was in danger of everlasting hell on earth? Others cannot help me. I'm 55. Is there truly a way to become free in life and not be punished for wrongs, no matter what the wrong? I'm facing certain death and no hope in sight.
You'll have hope. Jesus Christ said all sins and blasphemies will be forgiven the sons of men. All, every one, every sin, every blasphemy, whatever you've done will be forgiven. And the forgiveness comes the fact that Jesus Christ, when He died on the cross, paid the price for all of them. So your sins are forgiven, and what He asks you to do is to embrace His death, embrace His life, and embrace Him, to let Him come into your life, and He will free you from all this guilt. For some reason, you haven't been taught properly, but it's there for you. All sins and all blasphemy will be forgiven the sons of men. That's what God says. Take it. Take it. All right.
All right. Laura says, I've been married 4 times to men who were abusive. I've now found God and understand my value. Is there any hope that I could ever find a truly loving husband? I'm ashamed of my past.
It's funny. Jesus met a woman at the well, and this woman, he said, go bring your husband. She says, well, this isn't my husband. He said, your answer right. You've had 5 husbands, and the one you're living with isn't your husband.
Yeah.
I don't know what this 4-husband thing amounts to, but you have made some serious mistakes, and I'm not sure you ought to go looking for love anymore. What you ought to do is look for grounding in the Word, and get your priorities in order and get your life in order, because I don't know what you're looking for, but whatever it is, you're looking for the wrong thing. And you know that song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places, that's what you're doing.
I'm sorry, Pat. She said she now understands her value because she did find God. Is there any hope for her that she might find true love?
There's hope for her in God, but I mean, don't be looking for another relationship. I mean, you screwed up already 4 times. I mean, just chill it. You know, take it easy and enjoy the Lord and enjoy your life.
Enjoy being single. Single life has its perks.
God is all right. Well, folks, that's all the time we've got. We leave you with today's Power Minute from Psalm 108. Through God we will do valiantly, for it is He who shall tread down our enemies. Well, tomorrow, Christian colleges in California are under threat. The powers of be are after them. For Wendy and all of us, this is Pat Robertson, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.